Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I am your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. It is going to be 10 books that we review. Just getting back from some vacation, so I had to rush through getting all of these books ready to go, but that's okay. Recording this Friday evening, it's about 10:40 p.m. Just read, I think it was 8 or 9 books in the span of the day. I can't remember if I read like 1 or 2 yesterday. I know the notes were already taken for 2 before I finished them all off, but that's actually good because that means everything is kind of fresh in my mind, ready to go. So I think that's going to help out for the review cadence and flow. So that's a nice piece. And then after this, it's kind of a normal weekend and we get into kind of our standard routine moving forward, which is good. So with that, before we get started, I did mention a little bit that I saw the Superman movie in the last Omega run, but since this is the main issue, just want to talk about it a little bit more. No spoilers on this. Want to keep that completely above the board, just high level review. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie a lot. So I was excited for it. A lot of hype and anticipation around it. Obviously a lot of writing on this Superman movie. James Gunn, of course, taking over his first movie with DC and setting the tone and the pace for what is going to be the DC universe moving forward. So I think they did an excellent job. I like the approach that they went for, a little more of a lighthearted view, and I don't really think that that's a spoiler if you look at a lot of the trailers. And so I thought the movie was tight. I liked the character development. I liked how they interacted with one another. I liked the actual cinematography of the movie. I thought they did a great job on the special effects. Any criticisms that I had, I mean, it is more on kind of the goofier side, so keep that in mind. This is the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, so you're going to get a little bit more of that flavor of Superman. It's not going to be like Snyder's version at all. It's not dark and brooding, which I think is good. I think it's a nice change of pace that I think was needed. I think IGN gave it like an 8 out of 10, and I would be right there. 8, 8.5, I would say, overall. So I would watch it again. It's good to actually see it in the movie theater. I can't remember the last time I actually saw a movie in movie theater. I think it was like the most recent James Bond, however many years ago that was. So it's been a minute. But while we were up there on vacation, the wife stayed back and watched the boys, and then I actually went with my parents, which was a cool, fun time. So I do recommend going out there and seeing it. Obviously, if you are listening to some random dude on the internet talk about comic books, I think you probably already have seen it. But, in case you're just stumbling into this and you're like, I clicked this by mistake and you made it this far, go ahead and go and check it out. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the show. Obviously, we go through the pulls for the current week. We go through reviews. I got 10 books, like I mentioned before, and then we'll go into the pulls for next week. So let's talk those pulls. We are locked and loaded with how many did we pull for this week? If I pull up the share screen here, I like to start with this discovery page. So I use League of Comic Geeks. If you have been listening to the show for a while, you already know that, but this is really kind of the best database, if you will, for holding all the polls, what you have coming up, your collection, and then I use this also for the ratings as well. So the whole league, they'll vote basically their pick of the week. As of right now, number 1 is Absolute Martian Manhunter, as you can see on the screen. For the audio listeners, I'll just go through them real quick. Number 1, Martian Manhunter or Absolute Martian Manhunter, number 5. 35% vote, so that's pretty standard. That's usually what you see, so pretty good showing for that one. Then we have Absolute Wonder Woman, number 10, that's at 14%. Superman 28 at 6%. Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, number 10 is at 6%, and then Exquisite Corpses, number 3 is at 5%. So I have 3 out of the 5. I have both Absolutes and the Exquisite Corpses, and all 3 of those books we will be reviewing for today. So I'd just like to kind of put that out there as we get into the pulls. I have everything listed up here, a little different if you catch the Omega and you're jumping right into this next issue, a little bit different than what I had from the previous issue. I'm sorry, not the Omega, last week's issue. I don't do the pulls on the Omegas, but slightly different, change in and out, not really that much, but at least if you're like, why does this look different, that would be the reason. But we have 18 books, which we had before. I think the Uncanny was listed on here, but I dropped that. And then Emma Frost was not, even though I did actually pick that up. So as I read through these for the audio folks, if I don't say anything about the book, assume that I'm going to be reviewing it on the show. If I do call it out, I'll let you know it's going to be on the Omega or if it's a backlog. And if you're new to the show, the Omega is just basically the additional episode that I put out there because I like just doing 10. Feels about right, feels appropriate. Obviously, we have 18 here, so I just try to do an extra issue. That's what I call the podcast episodes throughout the week. That also helps me to get through some of the backlog issues as well. So with that, for this week, we have Absolute Martian Manhunter number 5. We have Absolute Wonder Woman number 10. We have Batman 161. That will be a backlog. We have Bronze Faces number 4. Dark Honor number 3, which is an Image book, and when I reviewed it, nobody else had a review. I think they have to get a 5 before they start to post that. So I'm excited to just talk through that one. I like doing some of the books that other people don't actually pick up, which I think is cool. Emma Frost, White Queen, number 2. That will be a backlog. Exquisite Corpses, number 3. Hornsby Halo, number 8. Huck, Big Bad World, number 3. Ironman, number 10. Justice League Unlimited, number 9. That will be for the Omega. Minor Arcana, number 9. Phoenix, number 13. That is a backlog. The Rockefellers, number 7, is going to be for the Omega. The Seasons, number 6. Storm, number 10, is a backlog. Void Rivals, 21, is going to be for the Omega. And then West Coast Avengers, number 9, that will be for the Omega as well. So 18 books seems like a lot because it is. It's one of the last times I think we'll be above 15. I was already looking for next week, and next week is tiny in comparison. I almost looked at it, I was like, that doesn't even seem right. It's that few books. But remember, I've been peeling back a lot, and when you do that, the way that our system works for my local comic book shop, you get one additional book on top of that. This is probably the end of all of that. And I was looking in the future, there is a big week coming up in the month of August, but I think that's mostly to do with delays and things stacking together. As we all know, a lot of these comics can shift from week to week as well. So that's not even necessarily going to hold true for when that time comes. But anyways, let's go ahead and now jump into the actual review. And so as I flip over to the main screen here, 10 books like I've been saying, we'll read them in this order for the audio folks, just so you know what's up on the list. It's always also in the description as well, and I like to timestamp them for the YouTube also. So we have Absolute Martian Manhunter, number 5. Then we have Absolute Wonder Woman, number 10. Ironman, number 10. Huck, the Big Bad World, number 3. Dark Honor, number 3. Hornsby and Halo, number 8. The Seasons, number 6. Bronze Faces, number 4. Exquisite Corpses, number 3. And then last but not least, we'll have Minor Arcana, number 9. So those are the 10 books. We'll go through them in that particular order. Starting off here with Absolute Martian Manhunter, number 5. Excellent book. I wanted to put it as the first one because League had it as the first one, but that being said, for me, I didn't have it as the comic of the week. We will get to that shortly, but for this book, still very, very good. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. On the art side, it just continues to be the shining jewel that is on the DC side, really just in all of comics, when it comes to the interior art. It is just absolutely incredible. It continues that momentum here in this one to catch you up on the story. And I should mention at the top, for all these books, I do spoil the heck out of all of them. So if you don't want spoilers, this just is not going to be the show for you. I try to catch you up on the story. We'll talk about the actual book itself. Obviously, I give you the review score and then whether or not it's a good time to pick up this particular book. So that tends to be the format. Sometimes I'll forget something and we'll go back, but any which way, that is how I like to do that. So to catch you up on the story here, Absolute Martian Manhunter, all of this takes place within kind of the All-In universe that's happening now within DC. We have John. He's starting to realize that he has this ability, and the Martian's been talking to him, and he doesn't quite understand what's going on for the first couple of issues, but now he's, I guess, come to live with it, and so he's reading all these different emotions. Obviously, you have these telepathic abilities, but the way that they do it in the form of art, it just really shows like how chaotic it all is in his head. He's at the point now where his personal life and relationships are deteriorating. On top of that, the city has gone into like a full scale like blackout basically, and a lot of the citizens are now just going crazy. So you have like in the summer blackout, the power plant or whatever is not working, and people, it's almost like a all out frenzy, kind of cataclysmic apocalyptic setting that's happening to the city. So that is where we left off. John's trying to do his best now in all of this mayhem and chaos. So he's hearing all these different crazy things that are happening. There's someone going around killing a bunch of pets, so he goes and tries to address that. There's someone else like poisoning food at a diner. He tries to address that. He looks up into an apartment building and sees like this big old conflict where people are shooting each other and a guy actually killing himself. It's too late to get to that. It's just too much. He's trying to run around the city and figure all this stuff out, but he's not able to. And it's like the chaos of the night. And he just doesn't know what to do. Kind of gets distracted, and he's crossing the street, and as he does, he gets hit by this ambulance. But it's not the actual EMTs. It looks like some crazies have commandeered this ambulance, and John's down and out. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to move, and at first, he's just thinking that these people are trying to help. They're not. They're looking to just dissect his body. And at the end, there is a mention of Darkseid here. So I think the crazy guy says to John, like, are you ready for this? And he says something along like the Darkseid is ready or something like that. And the guy just responds good, and that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on, meaning that we're getting closer and closer to these two universes colliding. If you read the All-In book, you had two sides of it, right? So you have the Absolute universe that's taking place, and then you have like kind of like the standard DC universe, but it's all like kind of colliding to some particular point, and it seems like we're just kind of getting closer and closer to that point, which is cool. So let's go ahead and flip into the actual artwork, as that is the most important part of the book. A lot of like the writing is very abstract, but the artwork does a lot of the telling for us. So it's a mix of John's thoughts and a mix of the Martian's thoughts, but you can just see all the chaos that is taking place here, right? Like it is just insane. This is one of the first couple pages in. I really like this one. So just a group of folks just on the scooter, but the way that it's all lit up almost has it like it's like a techno rave. What are those things called? Silent raves. It almost looks like that, but like on scooters going throughout the city. The change of pace on the coloring is that it's dark, it's late at night, and there are no lights. So a lot of like fireflies and stars and things are like these oranges and dark blues, rather than some of the brighter colors in the earlier issues. So I thought that was pretty cool. Here's John again with like that apartment building scene that I described from before, and when he gets hit by, the ambulance there, and then here's where it's actually some more like crazy people that are going up to dissect him. Basically, is the best way I can describe it. But like the artwork here is just nuts. And then at this point, it's kind of upside down, which is also part of like the All-In book. It was like both sides were the reverse of each other. So he says Darkseid is, so that lets you know that there's some sort of tie that's coming in here. So yeah, it's incredible from the art perspective. I think the story is pretty unique as well. Is it the time to jump into this one? I mean, the book is just overall pretty chaotic, not gonna lie. So with that being said, I mean, maybe now's a good time to jump in, but you're gonna kind of miss like what is happening here, but you kind of don't need to know what's happening here. If the art is intriguing to you, I say definitely jump in. At this point, just start with number one if you can find it and work your way all the way through. Maybe go and just pick up the trade. You don't need the rest of the history because it's just all kind of chaotic, and you just don't need the rest of the story. So if you want to, go ahead and it intrigues you. But if not, and you're like, I'll sit on the sideline, I think that's fine. But you can pick up pretty much from any issue, and I think you'd be good with this one. So that's Absolute Martian Manhunter number 5. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.6. And I would give this one the interior art of the week for sure. So next up here we have Absolute Wonder Woman number 10. So this one, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. And with that being said, for me, this is the comic of the week. Incredible book. Love this one so much. More times than not, it seems like Absolute Wonder Woman ends up being that comic of the week for me. I just really like the writing style of it, for one. And then on top of that, it's just like how crazy the story is. It's just mind-boggling to me. The way that they just kind of like put you there, or at least it feels like I am, it's just well done. Very well done. I will say for this cover too, this is not cover A. I think this is cover C actually. So you have this variant. This is also my cover of the week too. So let's actually flip back over to the share screen, and at least on the video side of things, you can see what cover A looks like. So I was like, okay, it's like crazy psychedelic hallucinogenic thing that is going on here, and that's what was initially in the box. But then I saw on the shelf the store had this one, and I was like, this just looks freaking sick compared to the cover A. So I actually just decided to go ahead and pick that up. It's Wonder Woman like holding her battle axe, and then like the Death Pegasus right behind her as well, and like this awesome pose. So it just looks freaking dope. So yeah, that's what I went for this one, and it ends up being the cover of the week as well. The story. So we have Wonder Woman. She is in this maze, and at the end of the previous book, she ran into a Minotaur, and now she's run into Queen Clea. And so she doesn't really know, Wonder Woman this is, like what Clea's about, understands that she's really a threat at this point, and is trying to get out of this maze. Along the way of finding the Minotaur is friendly. The Minotaur was defending a siren, and so the siren is with him as well. Start of this issue, Clea has a whole bunch of different minions that are in this cave, and they start all attacking, but the maze is pretty narrow. So the Minotaur, Wonder Woman, they start fighting. Siren's off to the side. They do a pretty good job of defending, but Clea has some sort of catapult weapon in the middle. She loads that up, fires it off. All the arrows that were loaded up hit the Minotaur, and the Minotaur looks like he's down and out. And the Minotaur is basically like, run and try to keep the siren safe. So that's what Wonder Woman does, scoops her up, gets to like a safe part of the maze, and is able to create a portal and then send her back into like the real world where her other friends are, and they can go ahead and take care of her. Then it flashes back, and it flashes back to Wonder Woman in hell, and she's being raised by the witch Circe. And when she's raised there as a child, I mean, I don't know, maybe she's like 5 years old for this scene and how they depict her. You have Circe putting all this armor on her, and she's like, oh my gosh, be careful, my child. And like the witch she prays to, Huck, all the time. She's like, Huck, like, why do we have to do this? Like, putting this girl through these trials, it just doesn't seem right. It's like, we're training her to be a weapon. This is what she needs to do. And she goes out and leaves the home, and we don't know what trial she's going to face. And she just sees this enormous panther covered in blood, just like head completely drenched in blood. And Wonder Woman just stands there, 5 years old, like no fear. And this thing is just stalking her and like threatens to hurt her, but she won't attack unless it actually attacks, and constantly keeps provoking, and she just stands there. And then the panther actually bites her in the arm, and the panther asks, will you attack now? And she's like, no, I can basically tell that you're goading me, and that I'm not going to fall for that. And then the panther looks over and sees a tortoise, and goes to attack the tortoise. And then that's when Wonder Woman puts her sword down, and it's like, now you've crossed the line. I protect this realm. I'm protecting this tortoise. And then this fight takes place. And at the end, you don't know who won. So Circe comes out, and she looks, and you look and you see, like, it looks like the Panther eyes are up there, and Diana's down on the ground. But it looks like she somehow defeated the Panther, and the tortoise is saved in the end. So dope, so epic. Oh my gosh. Like, that scene alone just pushed it up to, the 4.5. So all that takes place. We flash back then into the maze. Wonder Woman's going back to Queen Clea, and all her minions, I guess, have some sort of hallucinogenic ability, which then, kind of ties into the main cover. And so Diana, she's like falling into like whatever this hallucinogenic thing is. So this is where the art gets really trippy and weird. And then Clea has like this pit. She throws Wonder Woman down the pit. And then she's trying to basically get her bearings down there. And then she runs into something, we don't really know what it is, but it's someone with a sword that's like coming after to attack her. And that's the cliffhanger. Awesome book. Enjoyed it. That cut back to, when Diana was a child. Freaking incredible. So let's flip through some of the artwork here so you can take a look at that and see what all I'm talking about. Oh, and that's a perfect view of cover A there. And then, just another look at cover C. Like, man, so good. So here's in the maze, fighting with the Minotaur, Clea telling her to attack, and here we go, the flashback here, right? So she goes out there, and like, look at this Panther. Like, are you kidding me? Just completely drenched in blood, staring down this child, and this child is just defiant the whole way. It's like, dude, she is just a badass. And then you can see like the size difference that they do and like some of the scale here. It's like, man, how the hell are you going to take this thing out? But sure enough, she does. And you have that tortoise there. And then here's basically where the fighting took place. And she defends like the tortoise. It's just so well done. Like, you just feel like, holy shit, like this just looks like it's going to be insane. And then it's a discussion here with Circe and Huck, and basically like, hey, we designed her as a weapon and we have to put her through these trials. And the big thing about her is like, she's so unpredictable on what she's going to do. That actually gives us an advantage. That makes her really perfect for all this. So here's the part where all the hallucinogenic portions start to begin, and she gets tossed down into this pit, and then she looks like she's going to be attacked by whatever this creature is, and that ends up being the cliffhanger. Excellent book, comic of the week, cover of the week, awesome stuff. Now this is part 3 of this arc, so I would say, jump in at issue number 8 rather than issue 10, but you'd be fine if you jumped in here. I think you don't miss too much, and each one of these books you get a flashback on Wonder Woman, so here's just another one. But for me, this book, you might as well just start at number 1. Pick up the trays and just read the whole thing. It's been pretty much nothing but bangers. I think there's only been 2 that have been like, okay, so. It's been an excellent run. So with that, we have now Ironman number 10. Oh, and again, for Absolute Wonder Woman, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. So for Ironman 10, I gave this a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.6. I'd say, I was reading through it, for some reason I thought that this was going to continue into like 12 issues or even longer, but number 10, this is the conclusion, so this is the finale. So with that being said, I actually was thinking like maybe this should be actually a 3, because it just wasn't really good. Super wordy book, and it's been a wordy book, so I knew to expect that. But me, talking the meta here, if you will, I'm reading all 8 of these books. I'm like, I got to get through all of these. And then I opened this one up. I tried to do it earlier in the pile because I knew it was going to be a longer one. And then sure enough, it ended up being a longer one. And then it's like the way that they're wrapping this up, I don't necessarily enjoy it. I was like, all right, well, if we're being a little bit more objective, we're probably more at a 3.5 than actually a 3. And then Lee got a 3.6. It's like, okay, that does kind of fall in line here. But basically, we're at the conclusion of this arc here where we have Iron Man. He is supplying munitions and missiles to the Sorcerer Supreme Doom. And the way that he's trying to do it is his whole hope was, okay, we supply the missiles, we can control the supply chain from that standpoint, and then we can work ground level with the rebels and actually get a way of supplying them with the munitions that are going into Latveria. So it would be kind of a duality. And then when it comes time to attack, they'll be able to have the missiles. But of course, that doesn't actually work to plan. And in the end, Doom just ends up getting, all the weaponry that he needs to kind of maintain his influence over, not even that he really needed it, but it's just another feather in the cap, if you will. And so that's part of it. The other part is there is a Latverian refugee, and he's been helping out Tony, like trying to figure out this whole plan, but it turns out he did some sort of side deal, and in doing this side deal, he's now trying to take matters into his own hand to take down Doom, and he's gone too far by killing off some innocent people along the way to try to take down Doom. So that was the end of the previous issue. We pick up here now, and we have Tony Stark in this. You have Black Widow in this. You have the Red Guardian. I think there might be someone else as well. And they basically need to stop him now. His name is Vishte or something along those lines. And they're like, dude, you've gone too far. You cannot be killing innocent people. I understand what you're trying to get to, but the means, the ends do not justify the means in this instance, especially by killing innocent people. So, he goes on this whole, soliloquy and trying to explain himself of like, it's better for the bunch. Like, we have to sacrifice a couple. Tony, you're such a hypocrite. Here you are supplying weapons. Look at what the weapons have all done. And it's like, okay, we have two totally different mentalities here of like, one, like he's not actually pointing the weapons at the people. You actually went ahead and killed these innocent people in order to like try to get ahead and get one over on Doom. So that all takes place, and then on top of that, everyone gets summoned to Limbo. And this is a callback to earlier in the run, where I think it's like issue 3 or something like that, where Stark Unlimited, Tony's company, was being taken over, but we found out who was being taken over. It's like this demonic private equity group is the best way to describe it, was looking to create this or facilitate this merger, signed basically with a bunch of demons, and those same demons, when that deal fell through for Stark Unlimited, then made a deal with Vishte of like, we'll give you the power basically that you need in order to challenge Doom, but in return, like, you're going to be a servant of ours. So Vishay's whole plan was, I'll take down Doom, I'll be the Emperor of Latveria, I'll give the power back to the people, and then some way, somehow, I'll stave off these demons that gave me the power. And Tony's like, dude, you're not thinking clearly. You already had a more powerful demon from a different dimension that failed, and that took place in One World Under Doom, I think number 4 or 3, something like that. And on top of that, if they're giving you the powers, then they have the full influence on you. So what? You go and you win, and then somehow they are still going to have influence over you, and you're not going to be able to make the right rational decision. So the complete logic is like all flawed. And so of course they got to stop him and take him down. They do. And in stopping him, the demons are like, okay, fine, you ruined another deal of ours, Tony. So in return, we're not going to return Vishdev to like Earth. We're keeping him, and you guys can go figure everything out. And Tony's like, okay, you know what? It's fine. It is what it is at this point. So that piece didn't make sense because he basically just left him as an innocent there, then like as a prisoner in the raft or something like that, which brought it down, I think, pretty significantly too, because it's like, okay, the motives are not like really lining up here. Then on top of that, Tony is like, okay, we basically got to come up with a different plan on how we're going to take down Doom. They reference what's going to take place in the next issue of One World Under Doom, so we'll see when that comes out what that's all about. But it's Tony, Black Widow, basically like, hey, whatever we tried here, it's not going to work. It's going to need a broader approach, broader brushstroke with obviously more heroes, Fantastic Four, Avengers, whoever else, to get involved and to be able to take down Doom as the Sorcerer Supreme. So that's basically the story. That's the book. We'll flip into some of the artwork here. Art is pretty good. I'd say pretty standard as far as Marvel's concerned. I mean, look at these text bubbles. You see what I'm talking about here? Like, just so much text. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. They got through a lot of it in the first place here. It's a nice full spread that you have on basically all the heroes staring down Vishta. And but it doesn't. It's just like the constant text wall that just continues to go. And I'm like, man, a lot of like exposition, but not in a good way, of like just word salad being thrown on the page. I mean, look at all this stuff. It reminded me a lot of Free Planet on Image, which is like, I was so critical of that first book, and then some of the other books as well. But here's where things like kind of pick up in the battle that takes place down in Limbo. And the demons are like, okay, you know what, you guys win, yada yada, but we're keeping Vishte. Tony also, that's right, he confronts Doom, and Doom's like, nah, boo boo, I still got the weapons, you can't do anything to stop me. And then Tony with Stark Unlimited, and this is actually a good point to bring up, they decide that they're going to pivot away from the weapons. What they can do now is work on, I think, sustainable energy at scale rather than doing the munitions, because basically Doom doesn't need them anymore. He stopped whatever plan that Tony was going to do, but at least Stark Unlimited can like pivot and do something that's a little more beneficial for the world. And then Black Widow and Tony, they'll just have to see whatever the broader plan is to go after Doom. So that's Iron Man number 10. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.6. Next up here is going to be Huck, Big Bad World number 3, man. And I am loving this book. It is such a cool journey and such an interesting concept. So I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
Nope, that's the wrong button. And then this book is, it's an interesting one. So we have these superheroes and these superpowers, and how they become supers is they run into this witch, and it's not all necessarily the same way, but they're like kind of lost, or they can just really just be anywhere, and this witch will approach them, bring these people to her cabin, and she offers them this soup. They drink the soup, and then suddenly they wake up with all these different types of powers. So Huck in particular has like kind of like Superman, super strength, super fast, and then he has this incredible sense of smell. And it's like not just a sense of smell; it's like almost like a bloodhound in a way. But obviously they're using their scent. But it's like he just needs to hear a name, and he's able to find people. And so what they're trying to do is, there's this guy who went up to Huck and was like, "Hey, I'm trying to find this super Sophia that saved my life decades ago. It's like my whole lifelong quest to figure out who this person is, so I can just thank her for saving my life." Very noble thing. And Huck is like such a sweetheart and is like, yes, we'll go ahead and do it. And so the previous issue, we ran into another guy who was a super, turns out, or seemed like he was a bad guy, turns out he was a good guy, just being blackmailed the whole time. And he also mentions like, hey, there's this witch person also. He's not featured at all in this third book. In the third book now, we have Huck and the crew basically going out and just trying to find whoever this super can be. They find one in particular that they know of, that she has this ability to hear anyone within like 100-mile radius. And what her power has done for her is she'll just call 911 and be like, hey, there's like some crazy, terrible thing that's about to happen, and just let the authorities know beforehand. But she doesn't want to like deal with anyone, so anytime someone starts going after her, she just packs up and like goes to the next spot. So she's constantly been one step ahead. But Huck and crew basically figure that out, and Huck's like, I'm just gonna go and sprint ahead as soon as I get the scent, and just go after it. And that's what he does. They find her, and they explain everything that's going on. She finally decides to have like a conversation. Now Huck's mother also has powers as well. I guess her whole thing is like almost like a mind control thing and like whatever she says or does, or says that you will feel that way. So the woman that can hear all this stuff, like, has just been tortured. Like, she just hears like these awful, terrible domestic violence, like people plotting, like horrible things, like constantly. So it ends up being more of a curse. And so Huck's mom basically like touches her, and it's like, you'll only hear good things basically moving forward. So basically healed her, and that was great. So now they're on this journey of just trying to find other supers, because they know that they're out there. And in conversations with this woman that can hear for other miles, it's like, there were a lot of supers before, they've kind of faded off, I don't know where they're going. And there's like this special interest group that seems to specifically be going after supers, but I've been hearing less of them as well. So some clues and some hints, but now just more questions than there are answers. So they randomly come across another super who has a really interesting power of like, at first she thinks she can only heal pets that have died, but it's not pets that have died of old age. It's like pets that have died tragically before their time has come. So if you're hit like by a car, she can heal that pet and then they'll come back to life. And they're like, well, can it work on humans? And so they go and they try in a hospital, some guy that was shot in like gang violence, and sure enough brings him back. So it can work on that. And they work on, okay, like now you have a purpose to go out there, because she didn't want to do the pet thing and was basically just being harassed 24/7 to like help me with this pet. But humans, she feels like more of a purpose for. So that's what she's going to go do now. Then there's this other kid who has powers, and I guess when he runs and gets stressed, he like creates earthquakes. So it's like that's pretty bad. And so they go and they track him down, and Huck finds him, but the kid like sees Huck and it's like thinks he's getting attacked. So all these earthquakes are happening. Kid calls out to his grandmother who has superpowers, and she comes in and to defend. But their guy who's looking for this Sophia like recognizes the face, and he calls out Sophia, and then the girl turns back and says like Jim or Jack, whatever his name is, and that's the cliffhanger. So we finally found her, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen next in issue number 4. So super cool book, awesome story and premise. I'm just so interested to see like what else gonna happen. I'm sure like this group that's been going after the supers is gonna have to do something about it. This witch, what's that all about? It's just crazy stuff taking place, crazy stuff. So we'll get into some of the artwork here. This is from Dark Horse as well, too. Artwork is good, fine. I'd say more of like Tin Can Society style of book, more of like a cartoon-esque type of approach is the way I would describe it, but, maybe a little bit more realistic as well, as far as like the coloring goes, too. So it's a cool book. It's all about the story, though, not so much about the artwork. I think the story and the writing does more of the heavy lifting than the actual artwork does here. Some books are going to be more art forward, others are going to have a nice balance. This one is definitely just more story, I would say. So here are like all these earthquakes that are taking place, and like the earth's just shattering, and then when the grandmother comes to help, and where she finally realizes that it is Jack, that is his name. So yeah, to be continued. Excited for that one. That's Huck Big Bad World number 3. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Alrighty, then next up, Dark Honor, which surprised me how much I'm starting to enjoy this book a little bit more. Even though in the end it is...
Yeah, no thanks.
No thanks. I did decide to hang it up on this one. So this is going to be the last issue. But I did give it a 4. League didn't rate it like I mentioned before, so just means a lot of people haven't been reading it. Unfortunately, the first one was really, really rough, and I think I gave it a 3. Actually, let me go ahead and flip to it. So issue number 2, I gave a 3.5, and then issue number 1, I gave that a 3.5 as well, and Lee gave it a 3.5. I thought it was a 3, actually. But even still, it was like, man, it was rough. It's very COVID-centric, which is fine, but it just wears that on its sleeve. So it's like in the middle of the pandemic, we talk about 6 feet, we talk about masking up, everything's a ghost town. So a lot of that is happening, but the real crux of the story here is we have all these crime families and crime mobs, and a guy is trying to take advantage and like claim a bunch of territory for himself that he feels A, entitled to, and B, like just thinks that it's a good time to take over. But there's this group called like the 100, and it's really not 100 people, it's much smaller, but they are, I guess, kind of the assassins and the protectors of all these crime bosses. So our main character, I can't remember what her name is, and I feel like they didn't mention it, but she was in jail for gambling. They let her out because now they want her to be part of basically the 100 to help and protect this guy that's starting to take over territory. So this issue starts off with a big meeting of that crime family, and apparently they all have these keys and these necklaces that they wear. And so this guy is now starting to go after these keys, and leads to some accounts with a bunch of money, but I guess there's something else as well. And so the 100 is tasked with hunting him down and like trying to protect all the crime leaders. And so that all happens and takes place. Our main protagonist and then the woman that you see on the front here, they were flirting in the previous issue. She finds our protagonist, and they go out in the town, and they end up in some sort of mansion. Of course, there's gambling that takes place there. She's not supposed to get caught. They're having a night on the town, but our main villain, he's there too, and he's kind of the one that set it up. He knows that, there's something weird about these women and that they may be after him. They are like kind of unsure of him as well. Cops go ahead and break it up. The girls get out of there. They have a night together. Everything seems great and well. But our main protagonist, who's broken out of prison, she was actually rejected from the 100, but now wants to get into it. she gets tipped off that, this guy is now going after all these keys. And the way that they're doing it is they're pretending to be paramedics in the middle of the pandemic and going into all these different secure areas, that they ordinarily wouldn't get access to, whether it be like an apartment building or, what have you, and going after these crime bosses. They execute that plan. It looks like they get to pretty much everyone, and they find out that there was actually an insider, one of the 100, and there's literally only 3 of them. One of those 3 betrayed all the other leaders, and basically gave them the locations and where they're going to be. And then they basically got now the final key, and it's going to see like what all that leads to and opens up. And then our main protagonist, she's not going to be part of the 100, probably with the help of her lady friend here as well, and try to stop everything that's happening. So that's the story. I'm not continuing it any further. It was fine. Not super confusing or anything like that, but it just didn't super grab me in the first issue. Second one was okay. This is starting to pick it up into a different direction now that these keys have been introduced, whereas before it just seemed like it was going to be a very simple, kind of crime centric, like crime family centric story. But now it looks like there's a little more, and maybe some like superstitious stuff. You have this oath between the 100, so it's an interesting element. But for me, yeah, no thanks. We're going to stop it right here. So with that, let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork. Artwork, again, is fine here. I think pretty serviceable. Pretty good detail on, some of these pieces here. So here's this crime family, basically, or all the heads of the crime family meeting and talking about the problem that they have. We have our lady friends meeting up and then going out to have this, night on the town here. And then our main villain, Gregor, getting involved. Here's where they escape. And they have their little nightcap. And then here's where the plan basically starts to get executed. And they start taking out all the other crime bosses and gathering up all those keys. And finally, she's offered, I guess, basically to join the 100. And then this was one of the 100 that betrayed them in the first place. So decent book, but here's where I'm going to stop. I wouldn't recommend it. If I'm going to stop it, I don't think it makes any sense for me to recommend it. So yeah, that's just where we're at. So that's Dark Honor number 3. Again, I gave it a 4. Next up here is going to be Hornsby Halo number 8, and I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Pretty good book here, but it almost feels like kind of a filler from where we left off previously. So the whole premise of this is heaven and hell are fighting, and in order to create kind of a truce or a ceasefire, the deal that they came up with is they were going to take a highborn from heaven and a highborn from hell, put them on earth, and then swap them with different families. So the guy from heaven, his name's Zach, he's going to be with this hellish family, just this family that's evil and do terrible things. And then this girl, Rose, from hell, she was going to be placed with this incredibly, benevolent, cheerful, incredible, awesome, generous family. And then just see what happens. And so with that, a lot of different characters from heaven and hell are trying to interfere and get back their highborn, but there's this guy, the adjudicator, who is trying to keep the peace, and anytime anyone tries to interfere, he gets in the way. These two, Zach and Rose, when they were placed in their families, it was like at birth, basically, so they had no recollection or any idea of who they actually were, but they could sense like something inside of them. In the early issues, you had moments where they would kind of break out into these hell and heaven kind of like characters, if you will, but they had no idea what was going on. Was it a fever dream? The adjudicator finally shows up, takes each one of them to their realms and shows them like, here's actually what's happening, here's what's going on. Both of the kids reject it. They just want to live normal lives. When that happened, some more characters from heaven and hell went to interfere, and instead of just going and interfering with the actual kids, they went and captured the adjudicator and then put him onto the moon. So that is where issue 7 ended. Issue 8, you have Rose and Zach, and they live in the same town and everything. So they're on the school bus. The adjudicator could basically shapeshift into anyone. So he used to be the school bus driver. It's a different school bus driver now. So like, where the hell's the adjudicator? Is he not around anymore? He's been leaving us alone, but we told him to leave us alone. So he's actually just like doing what we asked him to do. Kind of miss him, kind of don't miss him. It's a weird thing. But what's about to happen at school is there's a play. I think they're doing Paradise Lost, something like that. And basically, one person's going to be an angel, one person's going to be the devil. But they kind of flip-flop it. So Zach, who's actually from heaven, has to play the devil, and Rose, who's actually from hell, has to play the angel. There's a funny little moment of like, hey, can we switch? Zach wants to switch, and Rose like purposely says no. Just goes to show like leaning into who they actually are at their core. So both of them, they do the play, and when they do the play, they actually start to realize that each one has a little bit of the opposite side, more so than they thought. And apparently their acting was like really good. Everyone was so proud of them, and they kind of realized internally of like Zach from heaven still has like some hellish in him, and then Rose vice versa. And they kind of realize like, oh, maybe there's potentially a little bit more to this. So a lot of character development there. And then towards the end, we don't know what this is all about. We have two people, looks like they could be in a different country, hanging out on a patio, and they talk about this person called the Hollower, or the Hollowed. Actually, I should pull that up. I wrote it down in my notes, and it seemed interesting. Hornsby and Halo, the Hollowed One. And they're like, don't worry, no one's going to find the Hollowed One. And deep in some ocean, some guy's going scuba diving or like diving down, and he sees like this huge stature figure, and almost looks like the Adjudicator, called the Hollowed One. And that's like the cliffhanger. So no reference to it in any of the other 7 or 8 books up to the very end here. So we'll see what that is all about leading into the next one. So yeah, cool book. Interesting story. I say more of a character development story, if anything. So here is where you have the Adjudicator like trapped on the moon, and then a lot of this is just the play itself. So they're going over their lines, they go and they do the actual play. I mean, most of it feels like it's truly just filler, but it's all about the realization that they basically have in the end here. And then here we go. You have the scuba diver, and they're talking about the Hollowed One, who's like featured right here. Like, what the hell is that? What is that all about? We'll just have to go and see. So yeah, interesting book. I like it a lot. This all takes place in like the Ghost Machine Odyssey universe. So you have like Geiger here. You have Redcoat, obviously Hornsby and Halo. The Rockefellers was part of this as well. Rook Exodus was part of this, and then Hyde Street too. So pretty much anything Ghost Machine I like. The only one I'm not reading is Geiger, but I do like this one. It's more on the kiddie side of things, so keep that in mind. Is this a one to jump into? I actually think you'd be fine. I think you'd be fine if you jump into that, because we barely mentioned the Adjudicator, and now we're talking about this new character, the Hollowed One. So that could be a good one. Oh, hold on one second. Let's make sure that this is okay. Okay, so the next one that we have here is The Seasons, number 6. And let's go ahead and flip over here. So for The Seasons, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.4. I think overall, this book is pretty good, but for me, I think the reason I was so much lower is it's a little confusing, to be honest with you. What all was happening until it was revealed towards the end. Sorry, just grabbing a sip of tea, and I had some audio issues, so if like it sounds a little bit different, that's the reason why. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and explain it. Is probably the best way, and then you'll see what I'm talking about here. Cover though, I will say the cover is a nice honorable mention for cover of the week. So it's more of like a pastel landscape view, which you don't typically see in comics. It's usually some sort of pose, and then I do like the colors of it. So like the pinks and the orange and the purples that are in it, and in this pastel shaping color. So close honorable mention. It's just that Absolute Wonder Woman one kicks a lot of ass. So, but yeah, so the story here, we have 4 girls. They are, the Seasons is their last name. So you have the 4 seasons. Spring, autumn, summer, winter. Spring is our protagonist. Summer is like kind of this glamour movie star. Autumn is this explorer, and winter is this artist who's like all depressed. Winter is taking care of spring while they're parents. We don't really know who they are, if they're missing, if they're dead. We just don't really know kind of what's happening here. It was revealed in the last issue, but even still now, not 100% certain as to what all is going on. But Autumn was this explorer. She put out this warning to Spring, hey, there's like this weird thing that's going on, this carnival that's going to come to you, and it all has to do with this mirror. They'll present it to you. If you look into the mirror, it basically shows you everything that you want, and you'll just constantly keep looking at it until basically that you die. So it's like a curse almost. Carnival does come to town. Summer was invited. She ends up looking into the mirror. It's all screwed up. Now, Spring leaves the tent, but then goes back in, and now she's trying to figure out what all is happening. The ringmaster of the carnival like kind of pushes Spring down into almost this dungeon area. She sees Autumn there, who's looking into the mirror, and she sees her parents there looking into the mirror. So now, the issue 8, we pick up from there. So Spring rejects looking at it, and then as she does that, she's running away through the tent. And she's basically, that's not my sister Autumn. And then as she says that, like kind of that facade falls away, but the ringmaster is still trying to convince her. And the way that he's trying to do it is say, like, Spring, you've never been accepted anywhere. Like, if you look into this, you'll start to be accepted. She rejects it until there comes to a scene where she runs into, and it's her whole family together. And they're saying they don't want Spring. So at that point, she almost looks into it, and then she sees like a huge colossal sized version of her goldfish Gilbert. And that's where I'm like, is this a dream? Is she tripping? Like, what is all happening here? And that isn't revealed until like the very end of the book. So I think that's what took it away from being a 4.5 for me personally. So she hops onto Gilbert, and it's all taking place inside the tent. And then she's like, okay, where do we go? And he's like, well, Autumn, in the notebook that she gave you of the warning, there are probably some hints in there. So she's able to basically navigate and figure out where in the tent that she is to find her. And sure enough, she finds Autumn in the middle of this field. And she's got all these mirrors surrounded by her, but she's wearing this like blindfold. And that's the actual Autumn. And Autumn's like screaming out, hey, don't look at the mirror. Spring's like, obviously, like, I know that as well. But then the ringmaster kind of like shows up again. So now the girls are like trying to fight the ringmaster off. And as they do that, Winter comes in. So Winter was outside the whole time, didn't really believe Spring, but then entered into the fray. And then so the ringmaster looks over and is like, that's unexpected. Autumn's like, Spring, this is your chance, leave. So it has her go and leave, but when she does that, it leaves an opportunity for the ringmaster to turn to her, and then it shows the mirror to Autumn. So now you got 2 down. Summer's already looking at it, Autumn's now looking at it. But when that happens, Spring, she's able to escape, and she leaves with Winter, and they're able to leave the tent. Now, apparently, all that took place in 2 seconds. So there's some sort of time warp distortion thing that happened. So they fall out of the tent, and Winter's like, yeah, I was right behind you. I joined in after 2 seconds. It's like, if it was 2 seconds, then how did all this happen? And then you pan out and look and see the whole village is now just covered in a whole bunch of different tent buildings. So that's the issue. It's screwy. It's weird. I'm sure that sounded super confusing, but that's the story, folks. So let's go ahead, jump into the art. This is also a honorable mention on the interior art as well, because the art in here is pretty nuts. So you can see, Spring here running away. She ends up in this school lunch cafeteria where she's rejected. She's rejected at work. And then you have the family. And then the family is one where she almost does actually go ahead and actually start to look at it. But then Gilbert shows up on the fish. She hops on and starts flying off. She looks into the notepad and basically finds out, here's exactly where I need to go. And she pays some sort of toll piece. I forgot that part happened, and that's also another weird thing that happens. But she breaks through, and here we have Autumn, like in these blindfolds, basically looking over. Autumn screaming, don't look at it. And so now the ringmaster's, of course, trying to convince both. And then here's where Winter is. So this is what distracts her. And Autumn's like, okay, perfect. Now's the chance. Goes and shoves Spring, but then Autumn ends up looking into the mirror. That gives Spring and Winter a chance to get out. And so they do. And when that happens, you have this pretty awesome scene here of like, look, now the carnival has spread all over the place. So how did that all happen? So yeah, interesting stuff. Time to jump in. I'd say no. you want to start at the beginning, to be perfectly honest. You just want to start with issue number 1 on this one. That's really the best way to go here, is what I would say. So yeah, that is the season's number 6. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.4. Next up here is Bronze Faces number 4. Here's another independent one that doesn't have much of a following. So I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. But for me, this is...
yeah, no thanks.
A yeah, no thanks as well. So unfortunately for this one, it is... it's like kind of picking up, but I think what hurt it in the first issue is you have a lot of African themes and names, and it's really difficult to like read through those if you're not familiar with the language. It doesn't have a lot of that in issues 2, 3, and now 4. I think a little bit in 2, but certainly not 3 and 4. And I was like, man, I think a lot of people had issue like trying to get over that in the first one, but it actually kind of picks up here, and it's similar with Dark Honor, where I'm like, I'm interested, but I'm already like at a point where I had one foot out the door, and I'm like, you just got to cut bait at this point. So that's where I'm at. With Bronze Faces, and the story though is interesting. You have this group of African kids. They are trying to take back these artifacts that have been stolen in a whole bunch of museums across the world. So they slowly start taking them back. They have all these heists. They're posting onto social media anonymously, all this stuff. But now they're starting to get some notoriety, and the FBI, CIA, or whatever are starting to get onto their tail. They're trying to pull off a couple more really big heists, but things are starting to go sideways. There's too much heat. And in the last issue, they're running off away from some sort of heist that they were doing, and it goes sideways. People are shot and hurt, and the cliffhanger was like, someone was bleeding out, basically. Start in this issue, and you find out that person bleeding out did actually die. So one of the crew is down. Now there's infighting. One person wants to leave, and like they're trying to skim some money off the top. So a whole bunch of fighting takes place, and it looks like maybe someone's going to die there too. They actually kind of cool down. The one guy does just end up leaving. Another one wants to finish the job no matter what, and is going to go to London. And another one in the crew is like, yeah, he's basically going on a suicide mission, so we just got to be there to carry his body back. So it's like, oh shit, like this is getting real, getting heavy. On the other side of the coin is the CIA that's going after them. It's this one woman who's in charge of the case. She was just recently kind of promoted up through the ranks, but she has a history as well. She was part of this like scandal back in the 90s where it looked like she was like an inside person for a robbery that took place at a different museum like way back in the 90s, but she was like kind of exonerated of it, but it ruined her reputation, so she had to work her way all the way back up. She explains all of this that happened, and what she basically did was follow what the higher ups told her to do, which was actually the right thing to do, but it just painted her in a terrible light. So she's just basically kind of screwed in this way. So yeah, that's the story and the exposition that you get behind it. It's an interesting concept, right? So kind of like a Peter Pan type situation, except of robbing from the rich is just taking back what was culturally yours, so kind of cool. Let's go ahead and go to the artwork real quick, and I can hear it in my voice. It's just like barely hanging on, but I think we have just 2 books after this, so we'll be able to make it through. So here's the guy that's kind of dying out. He just doesn't look like he's going to make it. We have the CIA agents. They're looking into the crime scene here. And then we have an explanation about everything that's happened. This is like the fighting that's taking place with the crew as well. And it just looks like things are not going to end well here for these guys. So that's Bronze Faces. I'm not going to continue any further. And of course, I wouldn't recommend it for you guys either. So next up here is Exquisite Corpses number 3. And woo, this book is freaking nuts. So I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.2. James Tynion, man, what a narrative this dude writes. It is so screwed up, and the premise of it is so insane. So this book is a whole bunch of families from the 13 original colonies. They're all billionaires. They basically host, I think it's once every 4 years, this big old event of who is actually truly going to be in charge of the country. Not that it really matters any which way. All the families are super rich, but the way that they do it is they have effectively a battle royale in a random ass town in a random ass place in the country. So insert small town that you've never heard of in your life. They go in, they seal it all off, they pay the authorities there to leave town and basically witness protection program them, and it's like never ever come back here again. They cut the power, well, not the power, but they cut like the Wi-Fi, the cell service, all of it, the completely dark. And each one of these families selects a killer that they think is going to win this thing. So, and it's dark and twisted and effed up. So some people actually truly pick like an assassin. Other people will just pick a psychopath because they just want to see the mayhem and they have no interest of actually like running this country and doing this whole thing. So it's an insane group of people. So you have some like hitmen, some ex-military. On the first cover that you saw, it was like the guy who actually won it the previous time, and now they recruited him back. They'll get like psychopaths. Runs the whole gamut as far as like the craziness that they do here. And for this issue, we focus in on a nurse. So I guess it's this nurse that just kills a whole bunch of people. We have one of our main protagonists. She is the niece of the sheriff who left. The sheriff left a note: just leave and don't come back. I can't give you any more details than that. But she's stubborn and she doesn't want to leave and she doesn't want to do that. And so what she decides to do instead is like go out on the prowl, but like they're noticing that the radio's not working, the cell phone's not working, like none of this stuff. And they see this nurse, but they don't realize that it's like the nurse that's the evil one. So they go, they pick him up, they saw a body, they're going to bring him back to the hospital. They start like, having a smoke break outside, talking about life, and the nurse goes in and he just starts like killing a whole bunch of people. And he gets like into the baby ward, and like we insinuate that like killed people in the baby ward as well. Effed up stuff. So these two people, they go into the hospital and they see all the mayhem. They're like trying to chase him down, but they don't know if it's actually him or not until they see him on the ground covered in blood. And like, oh my gosh, it's not him. There's some other killer in here. But he was just playing possum. It actually is him. And he goes to like kill one of them with like some crazy sort of acid that he gets it onto one EMT's eye, who's like the niece's partner. And it looks like he's about to die, and then he's about to get the niece. But then sure enough, the guy who has the acid in his eye, he's able to like stab one guy in the side, and like how with the syringe, if like you open up the air, it like creates like an air pocket or whatever, and it can like kill someone, right? So that's basically what happens and takes place. And then so the EMT woman ends up being alive. And so craziness, all this murder takes place. It then pans back to like it's a party and a gathering that all of these 13 families have. And one, she's like, I don't even care about winning. It's just like, we got double digits. I'm going to win on like, the prop bets that they do anyway. So it's like so screwed up and twisted and dark and effed up, man. It's like, my gosh, talk about a horror film. And it's like, it has this battle royale. So you got like this bracket and everything going. You have this other family that actually sent in one of their family members to be a participant in this whole thing too. Which is nuts. So the art is good. I mean, nothing too crazy here. It's all about the storytelling on this one. All about it. If I had to pick like a story of the week, this would be it. I mean, the full package comic of the week for sure is Absolute Wonder Woman. But just for the story, it's Exquisite Corpses. At this point, you certainly want to start with number one. They introduce the whole concept. They introduce all the characters as well. And now I think at this point, we're probably just going to follow each and every individual one until maybe like the first round is done. And then things are going to start to intersect a little bit more. So, yeah. Exquisite Corpses. Highly recommend. Awesome book. Awesome stuff. So, yeah. Last but not least, we have Minor Arcana number 9. This is a dope book. I'm enjoying this one too. I gave this a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.2. Excellent stuff that we have here. I would say, just to let you know, you do need the whole narrative to really make this one land. You can't jump in at this point. I think you'd be fine from a story perspective, but not having the context is going to be a slower burn. But the way it's written, you're just locked in the whole time, and you're just like, man, what an interesting tale that we are telling here. So we have Teresa, who is the daughter of a psychic in this town. The psychic, older woman, she's dying of cancer. So Teresa came back to help out, but she's an alcoholic. She hates the town, doesn't like the people, bit of a curmudgeon, and but we find out Teresa has powers. Like, she's an actual psychic, can actually read people. And throughout the book, very slow burn, you're just starting to realize like she has these powers, and she decides she's going to take over the shop and do all these psychic readings. So the start of this one, the word is now spread that she can actually do these powers and can do these readings. So she has a friend that works at the diner, helps her out, and it does a whole bunch of readings for people, which is good. But then there's this group of people here focused in on the cover, and we don't know what they're after or what is going on, but they want to stop Teresa for some reason. So this guy on the right basically shows up at the very end of the day, and he's like, I want a reading. And she's like, I'm closing up. And he's like, well, you need to stop doing them. And she's like, F you, I'm going to do whatever I want. Her mom shows up. Her mom's got a boyfriend. They get into a big argument. And then Teresa's like, you never told me that this was real. You always said we were conning people. And the mom is like, yeah, we are conning people. Like, wait, do you actually have like a psychic thing? Teresa's like, you know what? F it. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear anything about it. So something weird is like kind of going on. Then the friend who was at the diner, she said she had something to do with her family or her parents. She lied. She's trying to find her brother. Her brother is on drugs, joined a biker gang, knows where the biker gang is, and I guess she's like, well, things have been going well, and so I'm going to go and try to find him. So she goes and heads up that way. It's bad news bears up that way. Do not go there. Sure enough, she shows up, and even outside, she's already getting heckled. And one of the guys is like, lady, you're not supposed to be here. But she goes in there anyways, I guess trying to find more information about her brother. So that's not going to end well. And then the final piece is the mother who's dying, found a boyfriend. He's part of the city council. He's trying to stop some sort of dam that the electric company is trying to put in, heads towards his car, and then he starts to get beat up. Now, I don't know if it's these other people or if it's someone else. We'll have to see when we flip through. But he's basically like attacked, like, stop your petition. Obviously, we want this dam to go in. It's going to make profit or whatever. Something along those lines. So it's like slowly building up here. Things are getting nutty. Things are getting crazy. I'm excited about it. Looking forward to the next one. So Minor Arcana number 9. Let's go through the artwork here. Now, the artwork is fine. More of a pastel, almost like watercolor painting is the best way I would describe it. Maybe a little peach in there too, peach momoko type of vibe. But it's more about the story than it is about the visuals here, I'd say. And just the way that it's written. Who's on this again? Lemmy, is that it? Jeff Lemire, I believe is his name. And each time I'm like, you open this and it looks like it's a lot of text, but you just like breeze through it, and I'm just locked in the whole time. Minor Arcana. It's been, I feel like it was like New York Comic Con or something is where they announced this one, and they had like a feature. I believe this has like an Eisner nominee as well. It's just really good stuff. So I do recommend it, but you should start from the beginning. You're not going to do it any justice by just jumping in at this point. It would be my recommendation. So that is Minor Arcana number 9. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.2. Cool. So those are the 10 books. That is everything. Hopefully this isn't an editing nightmare when I piece together where things kind of got screwy around the seasons, but we'll have to see. So let's just run through the 10 books real quick, again in order so you know it. I've been doing this thing where I add like a one-liner as well. So Absolute Martian Manhunter, incredible book with the artwork. Highly recommend on the artwork alone, but maybe we're going to get some teases on Dark Side. Absolute Wonder Woman is my comic of the week. Incredible encounter with that panther. Ironman number 10 is the conclusion here. A little bit of a bummer, so we'll have to see where things happen or start to take place in One World Under Doom. Huck, the Big Bad World, number 3. Awesome story and concept. Finally, we meet Sophia. Dark Honor, I am stopping it here. It just didn't catch me in the first place. But, interesting take on what's happening with COVID. Hornsby and Halo, nice character development book here. And we'll figure out what the Hollowed one is all about. Seasons, finally we run into autumn here, and now we're trying to stop this mirror influence from taking over. Prawn's Face is stopping as well. Had a job that goes sideways, and now it looks like the band is falling apart. We'll see what happens to the gang next, or at least I won't, but someone will. Exquisite Corpses, find out more about the nurse in this one, and then just excited to see, who next we follow in that whole series. And then Minor Arcana, things are starting to pick up. Teresa with her powers and her friend going off to find her brother. So it's a slow build that is starting to pay off. So those are the 10 books. Let's now go and talk about the polls for the next week, which is going to be pretty easy. We're locked and loaded. We got, look at this, 7. You kidding me? Just 7 books. That's it. That's a godsend. So obviously we will add in some backlog items as well, and that means for the next issue, 3 or so backlog there, and then the next Omega would be like totally backlog as well, which is great. I love that stuff because it just helps me get through everything. But the 7 books we have here is Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, number 8. It always seems like that book comes around the time of a holiday, but we missed 4th of July, so I wonder what holiday this one's going to be. We'll see. Then we have The Incredible Hulk 27. I think that's the last one I'm doing for Hulk. I can't remember. Medieval Spawn number 4. That's going to be the conclusion to that one. I would have dropped it, but it was like we only had one more book anyway, so I was like, might as well. Then we have the final of the one-shots on the Marvel side. So this is Spider-Man versus the Sinister 16. So that is going to be the final of the ones where you have like these buddy cop pairings of like interesting characters that don't typically intersect. This will be the final one here. Then we have Star Wars, The High Republic, the finale. I think that's going to be like a double feature. Let's go ahead and click it. No, it's just 32 pages. So that's just going to be a standard book. But that I think is going to close out the High Republic on where things are at for now, and then we may have some sort of restart. I like to keep one Star Wars thing going, so I'll probably be picking one up in the near future. Then Ultimate Spider-Man number 19, of course that's probably going to be a big one, and then the Ultimates number 14. I'd say it kind of goes back and forth on which is going to be comic of the week between the two, so we could be surprised here, at least for me anyways, so we'll just have to go and see. But it's going to be more focused on the Ultimate side of things, whereas this week was more focused on the Absolute side of things. So yeah, that is going to wrap it up for the show. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. Again, hopefully the technical issues weren't too bad. We'll see how that all looks when I clean it up in post. But yeah, all the description things where you can follow me and everything, find that in the description on the YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to it on your podcatcher of choice. Next episode will probably be an Omega. I'm thinking probably on Tuesday is what I'm going to shoot for. So we'll see if we can keep up with that. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening on the wrestling side of the house as well. Got SummerSlam coming up, so that one's going to be busy going into next weekend for sure. So not sure if I'll do an Omega for the week after that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So thanks again so much for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.